I've spent the last 3 weeks buying, testing, and honestly, sometimes regretting every single product that keeps popping up on my feed, the ones with 100,000 comments saying, "Does this actually work?" and a comment section full of people tagging their friends. And today, I'm going to walk you through every single one of them, what they promised, what they actually did, and whether any of them are worth the money you'd spend clicking that little shopping bag icon at 2 in the morning. I want to be upfront about something before we start, because I think it matters. I didn't get paid by any of these companies to say anything nice about their stuff. I bought almost everything with my own money, and the few things that were sent to me for free, I'm going to tell you exactly which ones those are when we get to them, because I think you deserve to know when there might be a reason for me to be biased. So let's get into it. The first thing I tried was that gadget that's been everywhere for the last 6 months. The one that promises to do in 5 minutes what used to take you 20. The kind of product that shows up in an ad with dramatic music and a before and after that looks almost too perfect to be real. I ordered it the same night I saw the ad, which is exactly the trap these companies are counting on. That little window of impulse before your brain catches up with your wallet. It arrived about a week later in packaging that honestly looked more expensive than the product itself felt once I had it in my hands. And that's usually the first sign something is designed more for the unboxing video than for actual daily use. I tested it every day for 2 weeks, tracking what it was supposed to do against what it actually did. And I'll be honest, the truth landed somewhere in the middle of the glowing 5-star reviews and the furious 1-star reviews, which is usually where the truth lives with these things. It did work technically, but it worked about 60% as well as the ad implied. And it required about twice the effort the marketing suggested, which is a pattern you're going to see me point out again and again today, because it's the single most common trick in viral product marketing. Not lying exactly, just compressing reality until it looks more impressive than it is. Next, I want to talk about the skincare device that every single person in my comments has asked me about for months. The one that uses light therapy and vibration and costs about as much as a decent pair of shoes. I want to be careful here, because skincare is one of those categories where people's skin reacts so differently that my one experience isn't a universal verdict. So take this as one data point and not gospel. I used it consistently, following the instructions exactly as written for about 18 days, which is roughly the amount of time the packaging claims you need before you see a difference. What I noticed was subtle, not dramatic. A little less puffiness in the morning, skin that felt slightly smoother to the touch, nothing that would make a stranger stop me on the street and ask what I'd done differently. Was it worth the price they're charging? Honestly, if you have that kind of money sitting around and you enjoy the ritual of it, sure, it's a nice 5 minutes of self-care built into your evening. But if you're expecting it to replace a dermatologist or fix a real skin concern, I don't think it's going to get you there. And I think a lot of the viral success of this device has more to do with how satisfying it looks on camera than what it actually does to your face. Then there's the kitchen gadget category, which might be my favorite to talk about because it's where I feel like the internet has completely lost its mind. I bought 4 different viral kitchen tools for this video, and I want to go through them honestly because some of them genuinely surprised me. The first was one of those all-in-one chopping devices that promises to dice an onion in 3 seconds with one satisfying push. And look, it does actually do that. It works exactly as advertised. But here's the catch nobody mentions in the 30-second clip. Cleaning it afterward takes almost as long as chopping the onion by hand would have in the first place. So the time you save on one end, you lose on the other. And I don't think that math is something these ads want you thinking about. The second gadget I tried was a total disappointment, a gimmicky egg tool that promised to do something a regular spoon does just as well, and I genuinely think its entire existence is built on how oddly satisfying it looks in a 15-second video rather than any real usefulness in a kitchen. The third one actually impressed me, a reusable storage solution that I was fully prepared to roll my eyes at, and instead I've kept using it every single day since I filmed the initial test, which almost never happens with this kind of thing. The fourth was fine, perfectly fine. Forgettable but fine, the kind of product that does its job without ever making me feel like I needed it in the first place. I also want to talk about the fitness and wellness products, because this is a category where I think the internet's obsession with quick fixes really shows itself. I tried one of those posture correctors that shows up in every single ad break, the kind that promises to fix years of desk hunching in a few weeks of wearing it a couple hours a day. I wore it consistently, and I did notice that on the days I wore it, I was more conscious of how I was sitting, which makes sense. It's basically a physical reminder strapped to your shoulders. But I want to be honest that I don't think the device itself is doing the work. I think the awareness it forces on you is doing the work. And you could probably get the same benefit from setting a reminder on your phone every hour to check your posture for free without buying anything at all. I also tried one of those recovery tools, the massage gun style device that every gym influencer seems to have sitting in the corner of their home setup. And this one, I actually think, earns its hype, at least partially. It genuinely helped with soreness after a hard workout, in a way that felt noticeably different from just stretching on my own, though I'd stop well short of calling it essential. Something I think doesn't get talked about enough in these videos is the sheer volume of stuff that arrives and just does absolutely nothing. No dramatic failure, no refund-worthy disaster, just a product that sits there being mediocre, and I bought a handful of those too, because I think it's important to show you the boring middle ground, and not just the extremes, since that boring middle ground is actually where most viral products end up living. There was a phone accessory that promised to fix a problem I didn't even realize I had, and using it for 2 weeks, I genuinely couldn't tell you if it changed anything at all. There was a travel organizer that was fine, did what a slightly cheaper version from a store down the street would have done just as well, and existed mostly because someone figured out how to make folding fabric look oddly satisfying on camera. This is the stuff that I think trips people up the most because it's not bad enough to warn you away from and not good enough to actually recommend. It just quietly takes your money and gives you something perfectly adequate in return. And adequate isn't really what these ads are selling you. I think it's worth pausing here to talk about why this happens, why so many products end up in that gap between the ad and the reality, because I don't think it's always malicious, though sometimes it definitely is. A huge amount of it comes down to how these products are filmed and edited for their marketing in the first place. Best case scenario footage, ideal lighting, a demonstrator who has used the product 50 times before hitting record, editing that trims out the fumbling and the false starts. All of that adds up to a version of the product that exists in an idealized world most of us don't actually live in. And then there's the algorithm itself, which rewards the most dramatic, most satisfying, most shareable version of any demonstration, which means the products that go viral aren't necessarily the ones that work best, they're the ones that look best in a 15-second clip with the sound off, which are sometimes the same thing and sometimes not even close. I also tried a couple of the more expensive, more talked about tech gadgets that have been floating around for the past few months, the kind that cost real money and come with a lot of promises about changing your daily routine. One of them I genuinely think earns its price tag, and I was surprised by how much I ended up relying on it within just a few days of testing, to the point where packing it back up to send along with this review felt genuinely annoying, which is usually a pretty good sign. The other one, despite a nearly identical marketing pitch and a nearly identical price, fell apart under actual use in a way that made me wonder how it has as many good reviews as it does. And my best guess, and this is just a guess, is that a lot of those reviews are written in the first excited week before people notice the cracks, because that seems to be a pattern across a lot of these viral products. The honeymoon period reviews outnumber the honest 6-month later reviews by a wide margin, and platforms don't really do a great job of surfacing that second group. By the end of these 3 weeks, my apartment looked like a strange museum of internet impulse purchases, and if I'm being completely honest with you, the biggest thing I took away from all of this wasn't about any single product. It was about the pattern underneath all of them. The products that actually held up under real use were almost always the ones with the most boring, least dramatic marketing. The ones that didn't need a satisfying slow-motion close-up to convince you they worked. And the products that let me down the hardest were almost always the ones with the flashiest, most oddly satisfying demonstration videos. The ones engineered specifically to make you stop scrolling for 4 seconds. Because 4 seconds of attention is genuinely all a lot of these companies need to make a sale. They don't need you to be happy with the product in a month. They just need that one impulsive click tonight. So if you're asking me for one piece of practical advice out of all of this, it's not to avoid trying new products, because some of what I tested genuinely earned a permanent place in my routine, and I'm glad I took the chance on it. It's to give yourself a little bit of friction before you buy, close the app for a day, search the product name along with the word review, and see what people are saying weeks or months after their purchase, instead of in the excited first few days. Pause and pay attention to whether the marketing is showing you the product actually being used or just showing you a satisfying 5-second clip of a result. That gap between demonstration and daily use is where almost every disappointment on this list came from, and it's the one thing you can actually check for yourself before you spend a single dollar. I'll leave links to everything I tried today, the good and the bad, down in the description, along with honest notes on each one.